when you let it get too far, it's the snowball effect. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and it gets harder and harder to make those changes. I think what we're doing is we're making people better quicker. That's it. You still got to put in the hard work. You still got to control what goes in and out of your mouth. You still got to control your stress levels. But what we can do is help give that edge to make that snowball less and less and less, and just ultimately be the best version of yourself.
Hey, welcome back to the Oz Shift podcast. Let's rock and roll today. Today we have another guest that is coming from the world of doing cool things, right? Because we always want to find out how successful people make shift happen. This person is a success. They are the CEO and founder of two awesome companies in the realm of like hormones and peptides. We're going to unpack what that is. At my age now, I finally figured out how important these things are to life and the journey of what we do, and then how maybe a lot of things we're taking in, how we eat, just kind of affected our bodies in crappy ways. This person has a story that is about them having a marriage be saved by them going through this journey. And then they've created companies for both men and women to navigate these different aspects. But we're going to dig into some of that stuff because I know me personally, I have been super curious about peptides and about TRT, which is testosterone replacement therapy. And so I've gone through most recent last like 3 months, my own journey of navigating information on these. So I'm going to selfishly ask questions, but I hope these questions unpack for you information that can help you as you listen, but also another personal journey, because that's always the thing. We want to find those off shift moments that help these people, this person specifically, also navigate to get to the place they have that's successful in life. And so without further ado, welcome to the show, Joshua Whalen. How are you, man?
I'm great, my friend. How are you? Good to be here.
I'm doing very well, man. No complaints. It's always a good thing, a good day when I get to talk to good people. That's always the kind of fun part of my life and my experience. So we're going to unpack your life. We're going to unpack some things. I always start with a single question. You take it wherever you want to take it. Totally up to you. But here's the question. Say I'm walking around town. I sit down next to you. You don't know who I am. I don't know you. And for some reason, you turn and start talking to me. Why should I listen to you?
That's a damn good question. One, because I'm authentic. You'll always get the most honest version of me, whether I'm on a podcast, whether we're sitting at a bar having a beer, or whether we're running into each other off the street. I just think I'm an honest, authentic guy, good, bad, or ugly.
I like it, man. It's a good one. Because I mean, a lot of the things that we have an answer, it's always tied to like, oh, I've done this and I've stacked this. And I think being a transparent human is one of the best things. You can have conversation for 5 minutes that lasts with you for the next 50 years, with someone you never meet again on an airplane, those kind of things. And I love those kind of moments, man. So let's tell the rabbit hole, like the authentic part of you, I believe is probably what shines through the work you do. It's probably been the root of part of your life. Can you guide me through some of the journey to get to this point of being the head of the companies? And before we do that, share with the people like your specific titles, the company, so we get a kind of a grounded sense of what you're actually doing in real time right now.
Yep. All right. So we have two versions of our brands. We have our men's side, which is Blokes. Our women's side is Joy. You can find us at blokes.co and choosejoy.co. But stepping back to how these companies were started and how they were founded was my personal struggles. I'm one of probably many, many men that were told by their wife, if you don't get something together, I'm going to give you the big D word, the divorce word. Mine happened to be my sex drive. My sex drive had tanked in my mid to late 30s. I had no reason or understanding of why. And I went through my personal journey to figure out what the heck hormones were. And there was a really, really interesting start, kind of a bad start into hormones, because I went and saw a primary care doc, gave me bad guidance. And then I finally discovered what hormones was, what testosterone was, and how important it is for men. And I found that there had to be a better and easier way and more accessible way for men and women to get these therapies. And that's how Blokes and Joy was born.
That's interesting, man. It's funny is most people won't talk about the idea of like the sex drive, especially as a guy. That's not what we talk about, right? But if I go back to my days, there were windows of time in college, really like in college when I was with my high school sweetheart, when like we would get in actual full blown fights because I didn't want to have sex. Not that I didn't want to have it with her.
Yeah,
from me, I think it was expelling so much energy in practice or lifting
exactly.
weights. Like I just didn't want it. It was for multiple years of conversation. And then at one point it flipped to where like she didn't want to, just different reasons. I think we got divorced and it was a weird kind of journey to that. But that's a journey, man. People do this is real life stuff people experience and never talk about. So I'm glad that you actually are talking about it because we need to have that conversation. So take me through the journey of creating like your own experience with this, right? Because I get that was a start, you experienced that, but just because I'm dealing with it doesn't mean that I'm gonna go start a company on it, right?
Yeah.
So what was kind of the process of going, hey, I'm battling this. How'd you find the solution for yourself?
Yeah. So I've been an entrepreneur in healthcare for 14 years. That's just my jam. I like business. I
Oh,
like the
really?
adventure. I like starting and
Gotcha.
creating. Um, as my personal struggles happened, we had this thing called COVID that happened, and I had these regenerative medicine clinics, or what most people refer to as stem cell clinics, that were dramatically affected and
Yeah.
dramatically hurt by COVID. Our demographic was mid 60s. We treated osteoarthritis of the joints. And if you know anything about that demographic, they weren't leaving the house and they weren't spending their money. So our clinic shut down for about
Sure.
6 solid months. So as I'm going through this personal journey, and as that happens, I said, I got to get this out. There's got to be a better way. But ultimately, I felt amazing. It literally changed my life. It changed my wife's life. It saved our marriage. And being that entrepreneur background, um, with COVID happening, with the businesses on the other side failing, with telehealth coming into a much, much greater landscape, I had to take advantage of it. And that's how it was all started and emerged.
It makes sense because you're obviously going through it. But I guess what was the cocktail that like did you find a process to make it make sense for you? Because it's one thing to make it feel good for you. And you said before there were not good solutions. And you're doing the whole other thing where Gen X is those companies I've actually looked at a buddy of mine, I think
Yeah.
works for one in Florida now still. And so these companies like they're doing, but you pivot and go, okay, I do this and it's making me feel good. Was it something where you're like, this feels good, I'm gonna start my own thing? Was it that was the initial thought you just turn into a company? I know it saved your marriage, but like I'm always trying to figure out what is the actual connecting points to where someone can go, this happened for his guy. This I can see is beneficial for me, right? So the person listening, how can they find that's going to benefit them?
Well, I think it was there's probably a few different reasons as to why or what that cocktail looked like. It was probably like a Long Island iced tea. There are a bunch of different liquors in there. One,
Yeah,
it was my personal journey. Two, for the first time in my life, I literally wanted to elevate other men. For most of my life, I've
mm-hmm.
always wanted to be the lion, right? And this was
Just
a
you.
point where I said, you know what? If other dudes are feeling the way I am feeling, we got to change that. And nothing against lawyers, but I don't like seeing anybody go through a divorce, and I don't want to pay divorce lawyers. And I truly think our companies and what we're doing can save marriages. So there was a positive side. On the business side, I just saw massive opportunity. I saw massive opportunity in the
Yeah,
clinical approach. I saw massive opportunity and the accessibility, and then just where telehealth was going. So it was truly kind of a mixture and a combination of different things.
gotcha. What are some of the roadblocks you faced on making this, right? Because you had to have had the idea of like branded marketing, how do we sell it, at scale? Because there's other companies I've seen that do similar things. What were some of the initial like sticking points to get this thing off the ground and launched?
Yeah, I there's quite a few. One is compliance, knowing healthcare. This is not my first rodeo in healthcare. Crossing state lines, knowing that you need a license in each state to prescribe, you need a DEA in each state to prescribe a controlled substance, which is testosterone, and then just market share. I mean, everybody knows Hims, everybody knows Roman. We're different.
Yeah,
Those are companies that I say, and I say this every day, we don't throw pills at problems. We solve the problems from the inside out. And then if you need
yeah,
the pills, we can help solve those issues. But we're truly here to optimize individuals and solve those issues from the inside out.
gotcha. What are some of the things because you're alluding to them? What are some of the things that make your company stand out differently? Because obviously you have to go through a journey of creating something, put it out, and you got to find your own unique space, or you can't have any kind of share. So what are some of the things that I've heard of those? I've also heard of some of them age too, some like a hero or halo. I don't know what it is. But like, what are the ones that they parts of it that stand out to you? Is like this really is something that nobody else is doing.
Yeah, I mean, there are very few players in the virtual space offering hormone optimization. It's a challenge. You have to involve comprehensive and in-depth blood analysis, and we do those on a regular basis. So we're doing anywhere from 6 to 8 blood draws, phlebotomy draws on patients every year, and that allows us to build a solid rapport with our patients, our clinicians. We're doing no less than 30-minute phone calls on every single visit, and we're going an inch wide, a mile deep into hormone optimization. I strongly feel that hormones are the most important messengers in our body, and they tell us so many different things to do, how to think, when to eat, when to stop eating, when to have sex, and our providers are experts when it comes to this stuff.
Yeah. So where does that depth of knowledge come from, the belief in the hormones portion? Because that's the first time I've heard somebody go, I believe hormones are the most, I mean, obviously I know they're incredibly important,
Yeah.
but I think for even for me, the layman term, like why is it so incredibly important for us to be aware of them?
Well, so what's interesting to me is every time I read and learn more about hormones, I realize how little I know, but at the same time,
Yeah.
how much I want to keep going and diving in. When you start thinking about stress, that's a hormone that's directly related to cortisol. Then you got testosterone for men. If you're high stress levels, it's likely an antagonist to your testosterone levels. And then you start looking at hunger hormones. You start looking. There's so many different chemical messages in our bodies that are telling us how to act and feel every single day.
Yeah. It's a big thing. It doesn't make sense. And my brain almost logically goes, all the things I growing up in the world, testosterone and all this kind of stuff, you're usually told like, oh man, roid rage. Like when you said earlier, testosterone, these hormones are going to help save a marriage. I go, I know a lot of marriages have been definitely ruined by too much testosterone. Right? So who are you kind of, when you're speaking to that point, what's a situation that someone can look at and go, maybe it's a testosterone thing that's affecting our marriage?
Yeah, it could be a lot of things. Testosterone could be one of them for a man or a woman. What I always tell everybody is to make sure you're getting a comprehensive blood test. That's going to include all the hormone markers we need to look at, just general, metabolic function, general inflammation markers. And that's something that we do. But, backing up, the testosterone is so powerful for men. It's huge for inflammation. And it literally saved my marriage because it took me from a zero sex drive to now it's like, hey man, this is life, and babe, you better be ready.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's good. I mean, nothing wrong with that, right?
No.
Obviously, there's definitely other things to tie into it all. But I know my journey recently was one of my friends, he went and got tested, and so he's like at 200 something for free testosterone. Or was it free? Yeah, it might have been total. Testosterone. Total. His free was pretty low too. And he's like, man, you should go get checked. So I ordered this online thing out of the mail, and I can't think of what it was called. And so anyways, I did it and sent it back. They're like, oh, your testosterone's on like 260. I'm like, well, that's not good. And so I look into to get a blood draw nearby. I get you to the doctor, get it done. It's 553. It's 553 for total. I don't know what my free is right now at the moment. But anyways, so I did, that's my total. And that was local. It's like the blood place. And I did a whole executive body work down in Newport Beach a couple months later. And it was like 775 for total. So I'm like, all right, I got some good testosterone. For me, when I have higher, I do feel better. My beard grows thicker, faster, which is not a good thing. I'd rather not shave if I didn't have to. My nails grow faster. Like my body seems to be recovering well between workouts and stuff. But there's a lot of like actual health benefits too, beyond that. Me and my friend discuss. What are beyond the muscles and the sex drive? What are some like definitive like physical benefits that happen having testosterone in your body?
Yeah,
the right levels.
Yeah, and I want to back up a little bit. I look at testosterone in a bell curve. There's an optimal range, and then there's too much, and you don't want to be on that side. And those would be like the bodybuilders, right, who are taking anabolic steroids. And then there's the low side of that range, and you don't want to be there. Both the low and the high have significant health ramifications. We're talking heart health. We're talking prostate. We're really evolving in what we know about optimal testosterone levels. And we know that it helps with the heart. It helps with prostate. It helps with cholesterol. It helps with energy levels. It helps with body composition. It helps with mood swings. It's just such a powerful hormone. And we're still evolving. We're still trying to figure it out. And we still need more clinical data to really know how powerful it is.
That makes sense. And so how do you know how much is high and how much is low? Is it relative? Is it like, how would somebody know?
Yeah, this is kind of my issue with Western medicine. Everything in terms of what we know now, it's a range. And what we know is that we're basing that range off of a lot of other individuals in that general market. For example,
Mhm.
LabCorp, nation leading lab, takes a range and they say a guy is in a healthy testosterone range from 300 to 1000. And you just drew on
Okay.
that point. You know when your levels are good and when they're bad. And I can tell you this, there's a massive difference between 300 and 1000. What we try to do is take a lot of symptom based questions and combine that with verification and confirmation of blood. Most of our guys are somewhere between 700 and 1100 on a regular basis, and that can fluctuate
Mhm.
with workouts, it can fluctuate with a ton of different things going on in your life, but that's the typical range we see from an optimization standpoint. We don't like to put
Gotcha.
everybody in a bucket of what insurance defines it or what your general population defines. We want guys feeling their best.
That makes sense. Yeah, and the thing is, like, I thankfully didn't have to do like the TRT. Not that it's a thing I don't want to have to. For me, it's like if I can do it natural, which I did. I found some supplements online. There are different companies that more like natural stuff with weird sounding words. But I tried it and it boosted it from that 570 to seven, whatever it
It's
is now. I
amazing.
feel pretty good and still feel consistent. But I have a feeling at some point in time there would be a window of time where my body goes, "Hey, bro, I'm gonna have to slow down what I'm making naturally, dog." And not lean back in. And my buddy was telling me, he's like, as a window of where like what your max is. So because I've got tested, I know I can handle safely like 775. He's like, but you can also play above that. How does somebody know like whether they should go above? Like I could obviously say, okay, 775, if that's still what it is. Should I take some TRT to go up, or should where does somebody make the decision of going? This is the next step for me to take.
I think that decision lies with you. It lies with every individual. I
Mm-hmm.
look at testosterone in two buckets: need and want. There are some guys who are truly on a spectrum where they're true hypergonadism patients, and we're talking 300 nanogram per deciliter or less. And then there's
Yeah,
guys who just may need an edge or may not feel like themselves. Maybe they've gained some belly fat. Maybe they're not getting off the couch as much as they want. Maybe they're not working out as much as they want. You know
yeah,
your body. Sometimes your partner, your wife, for example, might know you better than you know yourself. She might be giving you
yeah, it's
those
possible.
nudges. That's what happened with
Yeah.
me, and I think sometimes it's an individual decision. Sometimes I think it's a marital decision. Sometimes I think it's a family decision.
Yeah, it's interesting because what I think we're trickling into, which is a good place for the conversation to go, is there's this physical nature to it all. There's a physical aspect of my muscles and my ability to have certain, but there's still like that backside psychological, emotional stance to it. Because yeah, I think if you have too much testosterone, you can be out there kind of crush beer cans on your head for no reason, right? But then on the flip side, if you don't have much, you don't want to get off the couch,
Yeah.
and you start growing your adipose tissue, you get fatter and you get more lazy, you get more tired, and then there's more risk of inflation, like all these things. Your body got to just stop functioning the same way they used to, and then all of a sudden, I feel worthless. I feel less than. I eat my sorrows. I drink my sorrows away.
Yep.
So it's almost like there is a part to play with the hormones of going. Look, if I can get you to have some more testosterone, maybe work out a little bit more, right? Get a little more confidence in the muscles, and then you feel a little sexy in the mirror. You might not look sexier, but you feel sexier, right?
Yep.
But over time, and then all of a sudden your wife's happy because you're laying down a little bit more. Then there's this. Then now you start seeing this beautiful reverting back to what your younger self was or felt like, and then you can live in that kind of energetic space. It sounds like that's kind of what you're
Yep.
saying is your perspective, what you're doing for people.
Yeah, I do. And on the side that you were going, I look at when you let it get too far, it's the snowball effect. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and it gets harder and harder to make those changes. I think what we're doing is we're making people better quicker. That's it. You still got to put in the hard work. You still got to control
You
what
do.
goes in and out of your mouth. You still got to control your stress levels. But what we can do is help give that edge to make that snowball less and less and less, and just ultimately
Yeah.
be the best version of yourself.
I like it, man. I mean, that's what we need to do. I think the world we're living in nowadays, it's a softer society, man. Everybody, this is maybe a different direction to go, but there's this whole thing of like, the body shaming perspective, and I love me as I am, and I'm like, I don't even love me when I got a fucking extra lbs, and I don't want you to love me there because then you'll be like, oh, it's okay, and just be like, 25% body fat, and I go, that's not a healthy lifestyle. It's not an enjoyable lifestyle. I don't know anyone who, if they, I mean, I grew up with people that had weight issues, and I was always around it. I don't care what kind of positivity you wanted to give. There was still that sense of like, I can be better. And I think that little gnawing part of our souls that says you can be better, if you try to shut it up, it gets pissed. And then we feel that. It comes out in a funny energy. And so I think there does need to be a conversation of people going, look, you deserve to be the best you can. And if sometimes, leaning into a different therapy or different way of doing it, not buying the world's perspective of, no, just settle as you are. That's okay. You're good. We'll accept you. It's a different conversation to have.
Yeah, man, there's a lot to unpack there. And, you mentioned something earlier. Masculinity needs to be defined, in my opinion. And it doesn't mean just because you're masculine, you're pumping weights and you're doing all kinds of crazy stuff. There's a lot that goes into that, making good, cerebral, sound decisions, being vulnerable at the right times. And,
Yeah.
I think we as society, especially men, we got to take care of ourselves. I mean, we are it's not a coincidence that we're dying earlier. We are not taking care of
Yeah.
ourselves, and there's
True.
been a psyche since we were little boys to toughen up and rub dirt on it and get back on the field. And it has bled over into taking care of ourselves. It's bled over into us making healthcare decisions. And I think we need to start
Yeah.
talking about it more.
No, I think we do. It's not enough people doing it. I think the one thing that I look at that becomes problematic is you do still have the alpha world. Like I live in the East San Francisco Bay Area, and it's still big trucks and muscles all day, rah,
Yeah.
right? And they downplay the perspective of the guy that says, "Hey, be vulnerable, care about yourself, be authentic." POS is why, like they just play off, and so it's like this downplay. And I'm like, no, man, like, don't you want to be able to watch your kids?
Yeah.
Because if that's the case, you need to get out of that weird egotistical space of I'm a guy and guys just kill things, eat things, drink things, F things. That's what we do. Like, no, man, you also talk about your feelings, bro. Because we also have a suicide rate 6 times higher than women. Like, there's all these dynamics. And if you don't step into a realm of looking at you have to improve yourself, we're repeating a cycle that should at this point be mitigated and gone.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting shift, in my opinion, of where healthcare is going. It's becoming more retail focused, in my opinion, and it's becoming less and less clinical. It doesn't mean you're not getting the clinical benefits, but I think the more that it becomes that, the more we're going to talk about issues that have been lurking for years. And you mentioned it. I mean, mental issues are something that should be on the forefront. Physical issues are right there just as much, and I think what we're doing is unique in the fact that we can talk about that and we can nail it with what we're doing in our brand.
Yeah. And that's a big thing because there's not a lot of brands doing that. And there's a need for it. Like I'm a former NFL linebacker, man. I got the alpha bear in me, it's there. That's how I operate and function. I gotta lead my household. We were talking about earlier. I got a wife. If I wasn't the dude, my wife ain't listening to me, like it's a certain level of how there's certain women that the high caliber ones you want, if they scare you, that should be a red flag, man. Because like my wife is scary to some dudes, but not to me. Because and I think living in that space of also realizing that even as this alpha guy, in a sense, I still have to come down to earth and be like, look, I'm struggling with this right now, love. Or hey, my buddy's like, hey, dude, this is a problem on my heart right now. I'm
Yeah.
battling with this thing with my son or my wife or like works, and I'm feeling the weight of multiple things. If I don't, then I feel alone. You ever seen that video where they have a bunch of guys that ask the question of, as a man, who do you have that you can call and tell everything to right now?
Oh,
And all the guys go, nobody, nobody, nobody. I mean, nobody. No, I just repeated it, nobody, nobody. It's like, damn, men, we feel super alone in the things that we need to not be alone in.
dude, that's I love what you just said. So what's really interesting, my wife and I, we sold our home in Denver, packed it up. We're going to move to Nashville, but in the interim, we decided to take a 2 month vacation. Vacation loosely. We've been working the whole time. But what I learned about myself in that trip is how to better communicate to my wife and tell her my needs. And it's
Yeah.
literally in 60 days, it's made our relationship so much better. And,
Wow.
and, whether it's your wife or whether it's your boy or whomever, maybe the guy you meet on the street randomly, we need people to talk to. And, in
Yeah.
my instance, my wife is my rock. She scares me. She challenges me. She pushes me, so I have that good supporting cast, but guys need that,
Yeah.
man.
They do. And if you can't find it, with a spouse, like you need to find it with yourself or a community of people that are having the same conversation. Because I think to go down the route of what you're saying, this is not, like you said, the anabolic steroids of go and get pumped up and get iron. Like it's more the person saying, look, I want to be the best version of myself physically I can. And it does trickle in definitively to the mental. The conversations me and my friends have, the male friends who are like in this realm, like they're very deep and heartfelt, good conversations. And I'm like, man, that would suck not to have you to call in the middle of this. But because we can even talk about the fact of like, hey, bro, my T's low, like, oh, like not many men will even say that. So
Yeah.
to have this space we're providing, it's needed, I think. So I see what you're talking about.
So it's interesting. I went to a family event and they asked me, they said, "Hey, Josh, what are you up to these days?" I said, "I'm starting this business focused around hormones and peptides and making people feel their best lives." I call it almost like the 3 beer rule. And this is just my personal story. But when I introduced what I was doing, when I told and shared my vulnerable story about no sex drive as a man, I didn't get a reaction at all. In fact, it was total dead silence. Like, oh wow, that sucks, man.
No one the same thing.
Guess what happened after 3 beers?
Everybody's talking about it.
Everybody's talking about it, and guess what? They're going, "Hey, man, I got those same issues. Can you help me?" We got to get past the 3 beers without having the beers. And women do this every day. Like
all day,
every day, bro. They're putting us to shame.
Yeah, they are. Oh, yeah, they are, dude. Women talk about the crazy. Here's the one thing I find that's a weird thing for me in my experience of women in this aspect is women also sometimes, I think because men were super direct, I think that is sometimes the fear. Because men can say something and they know that the dude, if it's your boy, he's going to give you some immediate feedback right to the heart. Whereas women can do it, but they don't practice it as much directness. They'll say it, but it's like around the bush. I'm going to tell her this. And then she doesn't tell her that. So there's a dynamic of watching that. But I think men fear sometimes men more than the women, like the judgments from your homeboys. And so I agree. You do have to get past the ability to like that 3 beers thing and just let it all out. But it becomes a practice. I think the more you do it, the better you feel. And I would probably say it's harder if I don't feel comfortable in my skin because I'm a little fatter than I need to be because I have low T and my sex drive is low. So you feel even more insecure.
Yep.
So you counteract that, the big truck maybe, and then, and having the cool things and look at my cool gun. I'm cooking some meat in the barbecue. It's like, bro, stuff's all killing you.
Yeah.
You need to take care of yourself.
Dude, there's a shift in society, man. We need to have thicker skin and we need to be able to be direct with our boys, with anybody. I've been in healthcare for a long time, and I have relatives and I have friends that go to the doctor on a consistent basis, and they're hyped up on all kinds of crazy medications, but not once has that physician, the person wearing the white coat, told them, "You need to lose 75 pounds, brother."
No one does that.
No one does that.
Right?
And guess what happens when we do it? We change. We run. We kowtow away. We need to have thicker skin, and we need to be honest. We need to be honest about, physical health and mental health. And I think just as society, if we can just do that, it will be so much better.
Yeah. And we're heading that way. I do think the thicker skin is a scary thing that for a lot of people to do. I think that there's a big problem with inability for people to communicate candidly anymore because there's a fear of being canceled and the fear of, being, ousted from the society, right? And it's tough because the things that people need to hear, they aren't ready to hear yet, but they're complaining about the problem they keep experiencing. Like, well, dude, if your back keeps hurting, your knees keep hurting, stop eating trash.
Yeah.
Dude, I went to a cruise. I got back a week and a half ago, maybe 2 weeks ago. I'm sitting on the cruise and I'm already feeling a little out. I'm eating a lot. If you've ever been on a cruise, bro, you eat just because it's time to eat.
Yep.
Not even because you're hungry anymore. Just food, right?
Yep.
And I remember this guy rolling by and he's literally being pushed in a wheelchair. And he had, no lie, had to be like 400 pounds. I'm gay. I've been around a bunch of big men playing football. The dude's big. And he has this bowl that's like, it's probably like 6 inches out of the cup of just ice cream just smacking. I'm like, these people are letting him kill himself slowly. But no one will tell him, bro, if you are in this wheelchair, you're not eating trash. Bob, I'm not pushing you around the damn cruise all day if you're eating them. But that's the thing. There's no ability to tell somebody these things.
Yeah.
Now you could have a health issue, but for everybody to have one, that's not the case. It's just laziness. But if your knees hurt, back hurts, you can't, you get bed sores, bro, stop eating trash and go take care of yourself. But no one will say it because no one can hear it.
Dude, that's some deep stuff right there, my friend. And, I think the only potential even solution is the snowball in the other way. We just got to keep rising the tide. We just got to slowly but surely. And, it's up for people to make their own decisions. Kanye said it best. I have my freedom of thought. That's what I have. Right. And as long as I have that, I'm good. and
Yeah.
people got to make better personal decisions.
Yeah, and understand that sometimes people saying things you don't want to hear doesn't mean they dislike you, but means they actually do love you because they're jeopardizing the friendship or the relationship to tell you something you need to hear. Because I think the thing is whenever you finally decide like I want to do better, you'd be surprised at how many other men, women are like, yes, let's go. Like now that you want to do it, I want to pour into you so much. And there's an overwhelming level of support. And if you understood a person who's listening going, man, I can't do that. If you understood how much people want to see you do well and would support you in that, you would hop on the boat of getting healthy immediately.
Yeah.
You would find ways to improve yourself because people want to see the best, happiest version of you because that's the kind of person that they want to be around. But no one can want something more for you than you want for yourself. So that journey to getting there is difficult.
First step's the hardest, right?
It always is, dude. It's the hardest one. I mean, even if like it's a little thing, it's still difficult. And a lot of it, like my work's an identity. Sometimes people identify so heavily and for so long as a certain character that they are afraid of leaving that character base. If you've always been the heavy-set friend, it's like there's a fear on getting healthy. Genuinely could exist because what if I'm not, Chubby Bob anymore? Like, oh, what am I going to be if I'm not Chubby Bob? Well, you just get to be Skinny Bob now. That's okay. It's just, but you have to be okay stepping in, and you have to find some support. With what you guys are doing over there with the aspect of blokes, the joy concept, how does joy kind of come into play? We're talking about men stuff. Women have a similar aspect in their lives.
Yeah, so to dive back a little bit in my history and why my testosterone levels dropped. My wife and I had 4 miscarriages in about 4 years. And little do people know that when the woman goes through this process, this natural, amazing process of having kids, the men's hormones change dramatically. And we always joke, yeah, Billy got a little fat in the gut when, Tina got pregnant. There's actually something happening. Men's testosterone levels can drop as much as 50 to 75% while the woman is conceiving. And guess what else happens? Their estrogen levels can go up. Their prolactin can go up. Cortisol levels go up. All those things played such a major role in my life. But what ended up happening is my wife went through those same struggles and that same fertility issues. And she came out of breastfeeding and she wanted to just live healthier and get back to the best version of herself. And how dare we men have our fun by ourselves? And she saw the progress and the benefits that were happening to me in such a short and efficient manner that we started Joy. And my wife is a phenomenal face of the business because she went through those fertility issues and she's living and breathing, optimized hormones, loving the peptide therapy that puts the icing on the cake. So, and then just from a total business decision, 80% of the household healthcare decisions are controlled by women. They're a better consumer, man. I mean, I don't even think I schedule half of my appointments unless it's with my own company.
Yeah, I do none of them. So, I mean, my company, yes. I do nothing outside of that. Dentists, doctors, kids. Why don't you do it? I don't even remember. They would just die. For me, man. I love them, but I'm not getting their teeth done. I don't think about those things.
Yeah, so it was a combination of our personal struggles once again. And then just realizing that there's a whole big slice of the pie out there that we were not targeting. And here's the other thing that's really crazy. 40% of our traffic on the bloke site were females.
Interesting. Looking obviously for the men.
Exactly. And I say this all the time. Optimized hormones, or let's rephrase that. When your hormones are off, it's a human issue. It's a marital issue. It's not that individual. It's not, because it affects everybody that's around you, including your partner. And when we talk about hormones, we are talking about optimizing humans, not just men and women.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's big. So you talked about it a couple of times. I've been holding off this question because I don't know how deep the rabbit hole goes. So I know testosterone. I get that. It makes sense. I do not know anything about peptides, what they are. If someone asked me to describe it, I would say it's something you get in Coca-Cola. I don't know. I'm making something up. I genuinely have no idea what this is. It's new to me. Yep. So do you mind filling the complete newbie into peptides?
Yeah.
Their, I guess, value to us?
Yeah. Well, I mean, peptides are flowing through our body naturally as we speak, just like hormones. We think there's somewhere around 7,000 peptides in the human body. To break it down from a commonality standpoint, insulin is the world's number one produced peptide. I
God,
think it's the only peptide we cannot live without, whether we're diabetic or not. You need insulin to function, and it's
transport
it.
glucose.
And we have somewhere around 60 FDA approved peptides. To break down the science of it, they're short chains of amino acids. So two or
Okay.
more amino acids. Anything beyond 50 amino acids is considered a polypeptide, and anything beyond that is a protein. So, in short, peptides are short chains of amino acids that are stepping stones or building blocks for proteins. The beauty of them is they function very specifically. And when they function specifically, they target something and they do it well. You have peptides for growth hormone, anti-aging, sex, mental, neuro, all kinds of amazing things that we are allowed to put in our body and get optimal results.
Hmm. Interesting. Does this have anything to do with like ketones? I know I'm asking a complete
No,
oblivious question.
different, but ketones are another thing that is. It seems to be all the rage right now.
Yeah, yeah.
Peptides, for me, they've been around for years. Where they really starting to take off is in this whole anti-aging and vitality push. But we've been using them for years, and they should always be done under medical supervision, like everything else we're
Obviously.
talking about. And you should always be basing it off of symptoms and goals.
That makes sense. Because I mean, I honestly, you obviously you can't just go do things on your own and order something from Mexico or Canada. Like, don't do
God.
that. I'm sure people do all the time, though, huh?
Listen, man, for every 10 patients we get from just natural process, we get one that came from, a bad case from a Mexico testosterone or a peptide they got on some online website.
Yeah,
I wrote a blog on this just because I'm so passionate about these being done in the right and sterile environments and then getting it done in medical supervision. One, because I know the quality is different, but two, I want to preserve the longevity of this specific space because I know we're changing lives.
yeah, that makes sense. And if you put your face on it and you're on podcasts, you're a little more trustworthy because a lot of people are probably buying website stuff from. It's a faceless brand with somebody who's been down a different country marketing things up on a page somewhere and hoping you buy it, and then you buy it and you put trash in your body.
Yeah,
It's scary.
one rule of thumb, if you're buying testosterone online or any type of peptide online and the only currency they take is crypto, don't buy it.
Well, that's common. That'd be common sense, wouldn't it?
Dude, listen, man, we get it all the time. Yeah, I got this thing from this China website, and they took it for crypto, and
Oh
it's
man,
never
it's
ending,
like yeah,
man.
it's like yeah, yeah. I got this buddy. I got this web account. I'm a prince from from Nigeria. I have this account. And there's $2 million, and you're gonna get some if you just come over here. Yeah, it's nuts the way that all works. But I'm hoping people, if they're listening to this, going, "There's some information." You do want to find a reputable company, and if somebody is the CEO is coming like saying, "Hey, I got this," there's a process in place. So for you guys, what's the process? What's the journey somebody should go, whether with you or somebody else? What's the process and what should it look like to actually start this stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I'll put them in two separate categories, but peptides and hormones, you should always, once again, be getting this done under medical supervision. You should start with labs, at least a baseline lab to determine where you're at. And then it should start with a good one-on-one symptomology like coaching session from a provider. And then at that point, you can collectively determine what is best for you. You may not be ready for testosterone, but maybe there's a lot of peptides we can do. Our process is easy. Go online, fill out a health history form. We ask you some basic questions, demographics, and then our team contacts you within the same business day, and then we get you set up for labs, and then you get on a phone, a video call, just like what we're doing, Zoom call,
Yeah.
and then we determine if you're the right candidate for the therapies, and all the medications are shipped directly to you within 3 to 5 business days, and you're off to the races. We do an injection training for every patient if it requires injection. Some of these can be
Yeah.
compounded down into oral versions or creams even. And
Yeah.
we help you make that decision.
That's cool. That's smart, man. It sounds like a good process laid out. It sounds like it takes a lot of the guesswork out of what it is people are doing, and it's the kind of thing that, yeah, changes marriages, changes lives. Because I do know, like, if your hormones are off, your emotions are off, not only you're not a good partner, you're not a good parent, you're not a good worker, you're not even enjoying your life to its full capacity, man. It just becomes a downhill spiral. So I'm glad you're doing what you're doing, man. So let's just ask a common sense question. Where do people find out about this? Where do I send people to, like, this guy's cool? I'm curious what he's talking about. Where do I send them?
Yep, blokes.co is where it starts for the men, and choose joy, JOI.co. That's where you send them. We'll take them from there. Our process, I hope, is simple. We've tried to not go so far down automation because I still love the human touch. I still love the service aspect. So that's why we call every single patient. And then we get you on the books. But everything starts at their website. If you want to go to Instagram at Get Blokes, is where you'll find us, and Joy Women's Wellness at Joy Women's Wellness. A lot of great content, a lot of testimonials, a lot about the products that we're treating every day for patients.
I like it. Sounds good, man. All right, final question. Here it is. What promise did God make to the world when he created you?
Whew. I should have done some more homework on you, my friend.
Hey, it's okay.
I got to go back to that first part, man. You're going to get the authentic side of me, the good, bad, and the ugly. We talked about this earlier about having thick skin. There's a way to deliver a message, but you're just going to get me in 24/7 honesty. And if I'm not that, I want that feedback.
That's good, man. I like it. Dude, I've really enjoyed chatting with you. Like, genuinely, it's been fun, like, just unpacking and unraveling of something that I didn't know a whole lot about. Now I have more information. I enjoy it. Because for me, I'm a guy who wants to figure those things out.
Well, listen, man, if you need anything, if you want to try any of this, we're happy to get you in the process. We'll cover this stuff for you for some time, and you can give us the good, bad, and the ugly. You're 38, you said?
38, man. I'll be 39 in a couple months.
You're 39, and you have a kid going to college, and I have a 4-year-old and a 1.5-year-old, dude. We should switch places for at least a week just to see what it's like.
Hey, no, I'm good. I don't want any young ones anymore. I'm good. The next little kids I have will be grandkids because I can give them back. I'm past the little kid stage.
Yeah.
No more of that for me. But I'm definitely interested in the peptides, man. I don't think I need testosterone yet, but I'm definitely in the curiosity of, like, how I can look at what I'm doing recovery-wise or anything just to get better.
Yeah. When was your last blood draw that was more comprehensive?
June. Full. I got a whole packet of this thing.
Oh, nice. Oh, perfect. I would love to send that to us, and then let's get you on the call with one of my managing partners. He's a functional medicine expert, and then one of our prescribers. Let's get you on some stuff, try it, and I'd give it no less than 90 days. Most of these take a little time to set in, and then we'll get you stuff based off of where you're at in life and what you want to accomplish.
I like it, man. You guys heard it there first. He's gonna get me all right, and I'm gonna come out superhuman a little bit. I'm gonna be taking on villains here the next 6 months.
You're coming out of retirement.
I will do that. I'm gonna go. I mean, it's funny. I went to my every year I go do a camp with my former NFL agent, and we always just kind of do things. And I took it like this year. I spent more time and energy in my body than I have since I played in the NFL. And he goes, man, from like the neck down, you look like you could play, bro. I go, oh, he said I'm old. Like, what are we doing right now? But definitely, like, I feel it. I mean, my body, like, this morning I got up and I do my morning routine with my son, and I dropped my sweatshirt in the ground. I was like, that is so far down there right now. I was so sore from squats and deadlifts, but I'm like, if I could find ways to do more to recover and help out, I'm all for it. Wow. So yeah, man, I'll hit you up. I will for sure send that your way here pretty soon.
Yep, let's do it, brother. Let's get you going.
I like it. Well, you guys, thank you so much for hanging out with us. Seriously, there's so many places you can be, but you choose to come hang out with us here. Make sure you check out blokes.co and choose joy, JOI.co, to go look at the stuff that they going on over here, man. The guy's, he's dialed in, he knows his stuff, so he's helping people. So if for some reason you believe that this episode gave you some insight, or you know someone that needs to listen to this, share the episode, as well as rate and review it so more people can hear it in the world. Outside of that, as always, make the most of your off-shift moments. You can make shift happen. It's Anthony Trucks and Joshua Whalen signing off.
Hey, thank you for tuning in to the Awe Shift podcast. I pray that we gave something amazing to your life. And if you found this episode served you in some way, I would love if you could share it with people you know, people you love, as well as your community, because you never know who needs that simple little seed that can grow into something amazing for their life. And the actual training doesn't stop here. If you want your free copy of the show notes sent to you after every episode so you can get the major points consolidated down, simply go to textanthony.com and message the word notes. Till next time, make shift happen.